So good afternoon. Sorry, good morning. Uh, Second year Bcom. Second year Bcom Computer Application Semester 4, Unit 3, JavaScript. Second year Bcom Computer Applications Semester 4, Unit 3, JavaScript. So JavaScript introduction, client side JavaScript, server side JavaScript, core features, data types and variables, operators, exceptions, expressions and statements and functions, objects, arrays, date and math related objects, document object model, DOM, event handling. So these are the different concepts. So today we discuss about all these things. So what are the main concepts? JavaScript introduction, variables and data types, and declaring variables, data types, statements and operators, control structures, conditional statements, loops or looping statements, object based programming, functions, executing deferred scripts and objects, message box in JavaScript, dialog boxes, alert boxes, confirm boxes, prompt boxes, JavaScript with HTML, events and event handlers, forms, forms arrays, summary. So JavaScript is a programming language of the web. It is used mainly for validating forms. Mainly JavaScript is mainly used for data validation of the forms. JavaScript and Java can be related to each other. There exists many other differences between the two. The client interprets JavaScript. Mainly JavaScript is mainly used at the client side, whereas in Java one can execute a Java file only after compiling it. JavaScript is based on an object model. So besides JavaScript programming constructs, and JavaScript is also object oriented programming language, like a scripting language mainly used at the client side, means client devices like that, and mainly used for objects, creating objects, message boxes, forms, form validations. And another important feature of JavaScript is event handling and event driven code. Mainly event handling means events using keyboard, mouse like that, and event handling and event driven code are the another important features of JavaScript. So objectives, what are the objectives of this unit? After going through the unit, you would be able to learn the following these things: operators, loops, functions, mathematical objects and data objects, and input output boxes like that. So and similarly event handlers, form object and form arrays. So JavaScript variables and data types. So this is a simple example of a JavaScript which is embedded in HTML code. So HTML, head, title, igno/title, script language is equals to within quotes JavaScript, script language is equals to within quotes JavaScript /script /head body/HTML. So generally JavaScript is a scripting language which is used to embed or insert anywhere in a HTML program. So to insert JavaScript in HTML, we simply use script tag. What is the syntax of script tag? Script/script. So JavaScript code should be written in between the script and /script tags. The value language is equals to within quotes JavaScript indicates to the browser that Javascript code has been used in HTML document. So generally it is a good practice to write the JavaScript code in between head and /head tags. So now let us start with variables. Variables store and retrieve data, also known as values. A value can refer to a value. A variable can refer to a value which changes or changed. Variables are referred by name. All the name you give them must conform to create rules. So as we know that JavaScript variables have some names, some rules and regulations to write them and use them. So every JavaScript variable should start with alphabet or an underscore. So how to declare a variable? How to declare a variable in JavaScript, JavaScript code or JavaScript program? So you can declare a variable. You can declare a variable with the var statement. How to declare a variable in JavaScript? Generally, we may declare a variable in JavaScript by using var keyword. Var means variable. The syntax is var some variable name or string name is equals to some value. So you can also declare a variable by simply assigning a value to the variable, but if you do not assign a value and simply use the variable, then it leads to an error. So the syntax is some variable name is equals to some value. So example is var is equals to str name is equals to within quotes hello. So the variable name is on the left hand side of the expression, and the value you want to assign to the variable is on the right side. This is the variable str name shows above. So lifespan of variable, generally the variables are available or accessible within a function. So if you use the variable within a function, it is valid or available till the function is inactive. So scripting language. So there are many types of scripting languages are used or available, like JavaScript, VBScript. Generally JavaScript is a client side scripting language, whereas VBScript is a server side scripting language. So client side means client side scripting languages are generally used for validations, data validations, or validations of the data forms, like that. So data types, another important concept in JavaScript is, it is also a setup question also. Another important setup question in JavaScript is data types. So data types is a compulsory setup question which is coming from JavaScript. Compulsory setup question, that is from unit one of the setup question which is coming from unit 3. So what are the different types of data types? What are the different data types available in JavaScript? So a value, what is a data script? As we know that what is a data type? Generally data types are used to store different types of data or information, in a in a variable. So a value, the data assigned to a variable, may consist of any sort of data. However, JavaScript consists of data to fail into several possible types. So depending on the type of data, obtaining operations may. So generally data types, various types of data or information is generally stored in variables, which are generally declared by using var statement, VER, which are generally declared with a var statement. So data type and description. So these are the different data types. These are the different types of data types used in JavaScript. So what are the different data types available? As we know that in C language also we may have different types of data or data types. So like in C and C++ languages, JavaScript also used to store different types of data or information with JavaScript also used to store different types of data or information in variables by using various different data types. So what are the different data types in JavaScript, available in JavaScript. So number, first data type is number data type, second one is boolean data type, third one is string data type, fourth one is object data type, fifth one is null data type, and sixth one is number undefined data type. So all these are the different data types used in JavaScript, generally used in JavaScript. So first data type is called as number. First type of data type is generally called as so first type of data type is generally called as number. What is a number? A number means it is used to store any type of number. So we know that there are many types of numbers are available, like integer numbers, whole numbers, real numbers, floating point numbers, decimal point numbers, double precision numbers, like that. So three examples are 3 or 7.987 are the examples of the integer and floating point numbers. Integer numbers also called as whole numbers, whereas floating point numbers are called as the decimal point numbers, numbers with some decimal number point. So integers can be positive, 0 or negative. Integers can be expressed in decimal, hexadecimal or octal, like that. So a floating point number can contain either a decimal fraction or exponentiation e symbol. So for example is, so generally these numbers also preceded with some sign, positive sign or negative sign or like plus or minus also. So that is used to represent 10 to the power of in scientific notation or both. The exponential part is an exponent e, small e or capital E, followed by an integer which can be signed preceded by a plus or minus symbol. Similarly, a floating point literal must have at least one digit, either a decimal point or a exponential. So generally, if basically numeric data types, they are also called as numeric or number data type. It is called as number data types. Number data type is either two types basically, whole numbers or decimal point numbers. Whole numbers means numbers without decimal fraction or a decimal symbol, and real numbers are floating point numbers. Floating point numbers or real numbers means generally it contains either a decimal point or a number with exponentiation notation. Similarly, these numbers are either positive or negative numbers. Positive numbers must be preceded, negative numbers must be preceded with a negative symbol. Boolean, next data type is another type of data type is called Boolean. What is a Boolean data type? Boolean data type means true or false. Generally, it is not available in C and C++. So what is a Boolean data type? Boolean data types are generally used to store either true or false or yes or no type of data. So the possible Boolean values are true or false. These are special values and are not usable as 1 and zeros. So in a comparison, any expression that evaluates to 0, generally 0 means false value. Generally 0 is taken to be a false value and 1 is treated as a positive number or a true value. So first data type is number, second type is Boolean, third data type is string. String means, what is a string? A collection of some characters, any type of characters like alphabets, either in lowercase or uppercase, or some special symbols, digits, anything written within double quotes is called as a string. What is a string? A string is nothing but it is a collection of some characters or a collection of some characters generally written in double quotes, within the double quotes. Strings are defined by a single or double quotes. Generally strings are represented with either by using a single quote or a double quote quotation marks. Use single quotes to type strings that contain quotation marks. Next is object. What is an object? Object is nothing but what is an object? Generally all HTML pages are web pages. Any web page or any HTML page generally contains some generally contains different types of objects. Every part or different parts of an HTML page or a web page is generally called as an object. So every object have some properties, or characteristics, or some functions or functionalities, methods, like that. So how to create an object? Generally in Java or JavaScript or C++, to create an object we may use two types of operators, delete and new and delete operators. There are two types of special operators are used, new and delete. By using these two objects we may create objects in C++ or C++ or Java or JavaScript. So example is my object is equals to new of object. Null, another type of data type is called as null. What is that null? Null means not the same as 0, not the same as 0, no value at all. A null value is one that has no value and means nothing. So generally 0 is different and null is different. Null means not the same, not 0. Null means nothing or null value. Undefined is another data type. So these are the different data types. It is a compulsory essay type question from unit 3, that is JavaScript. So what are the different types of data types available? Number, boolean, string, object, null. So there are 5 types of data types are used. First one is called number, second one is boolean, third one is string, fourth one is object, and fifth one is null. So either number, and in number data type we may generally we may able to store either strings, we may able to store either integer values as well as real values or floating point numbers. So generally in number field we may be able to store either a integer value or a whole number also. So next we start with statements and operators. So what are the different types of statements and operators? What are the different types of statements and operators which are available in JavaScript? So as we know that in C and C++ and Java, there are generally the operators are different types, like arithmetic operators, relational operators, logical operators, and bitwise operators, special operators, ternary operators, like that. So what are the basic arithmetic operators or assignment operators generally used are equals to, plus equals to, minus equals to, star is equals to, slash is equals to. All these are called as arithmetic assignment operators. All these are called as assignment operators. So comparison operators, another type of operators generally used in JavaScript is comparison operators. Like so what is the difference between a single equals to and a double equals to? Single equals to is called as an assignment operator, whereas a double equals to is called as a comparison operator. Comparison operator means generally assignment operator is used to assign a single value or a variable or expression, value of a variable expression to a variable on the left hand side, whereas a double equals to means a comparison operator used to compare two or more variables, two or more constants, two or more expressions, or combination of them. So What are the comparison operators or relational operators used in JavaScript, like in C, C++, Java? So comparison operators or relational operators are double equals to, not equals to, greater than equals to, less than equals to. So all these are called as comparison operators or relational operators. Generally these are used to compare two or more values or variables or expression or combination of them. And computational operators means as arithmetic operators. Computational operators means arithmetic operators. What are they? Plus for addition, minus for subtraction. Plus for addition, minus for subtraction, star for multiplication, and slash for division, and plus x and minus x plus and minus x minus. All these are computational operators or assignment arithmetic operators, plus minus star slash, like that. These are also called as incremental and decremental operators. So logical operators, another type of operators are called as logical operators. So what are the logical operators? Logical operators are generally and, or, not. So like in C or C++ or Java, logical operators, there are three types of logical operators are there: and, or, not. Generally these logical operators evaluate expressions and then return a true or false. So generally these operators are used to test two or more conditions. Generally these operators are used to test two or more conditions. And comparison operators or relational operators are generally used to compare compare two items and return a value if it is a true or a false, if it is a true value or a false value. So what is a comparison operator or comparison operators and or relational operators? Generally they are used to compare two or more values, expressions or variables, whether if it is a true or false. Generally these operators may return either true or false value. So logical operators, what are logical operators? Logical operators are generally used to test. Logical operators are generally used to test So logical operators, what are logical operators? Logical operators are generally used to compare. Logical operators are generally used to compare two or more conditions. Two or more conditions, whether they are true or false. Whether they are true or false. So what are logical operators? And, or, not. There are three logical operators are basically used in C, C++, and Java and JavaScript. First one is called as and means double ampersand, or means double vertical bars, and not means exclamatory symbols. So what is and operator? And operator is generally used to combined if both the given conditions are true, then only the end value or end result is generally true. And or operator, what is or operator? Or operator is generally used to if any of the given condition, if any one of the given condition is true, then the result will be true. In all other cases the result will be false. That is the working of the or. Not means negation. Not means generally negation. So next is control statements. Another set of question is, so first set of question is data types. What are the different types of data types in JavaScript? Another set of question is control statements. So what are the different control statements in JavaScript? So JavaScript supports the usual control structures. So like in C and C++ and Java, the control statements are almost same. Like what are control statements? Conditional statements, and loops are looping statements. So control statements are generally called as conditional statements and loops or looping statements. So like in C, C++ and Java, control statements are almost same. Control statements are almost same in like in JavaScript also. Sorry, in JavaScript also. So what are the different types of control statements? So basically control statements are conditional statements. First one is conditional statements, and second one is iterations or loops. Iterations are loops or looping statements. So there are basically two types of control statements are used. The first one is conditional statements or conditions. Second one is iteration statements, loops or looping statements or iteration statements. So the conditional statements are if else, if, and switch. So the conditional statements are if else, if, and switch, and the iteration statements are the iteration. The iterations or iteration statements or loops or looping statements are for loop, while loop, do while loop, for loop, while loop, do while loop, break, and continue. So there are 5 loops or iteration statements or loops or looping statements in JavaScript: for loop, while loop, do while loop, break, and continue. So the conditional statements are conditions. The conditions are conditional statements in C language are if is called as simple if else statement, if else if statement, if else multiple nested if statement, and switch statements. So conditional control statements are control structures. Control structures is another important set of question in JavaScript. Control structures is another important question, set of question in JavaScript. So So first we start with conditional statements. So what are conditional statements? Conditional statements are nothing but to test a given condition. Generally, conditional statements are generally used to test a given condition, whether if it is true or false. Whether if it is true or false means the main purpose of using conditional statements is to test a given condition whether if it is true or false. For example, is 5 is 10 is greater than 20, is 10 is greater than 20, is it true or a false? Means it is a false. Why? Because 10 is less than 20. Similarly, is A is greater than B, is A is greater than B, or B is less than C, like that. So what are conditional statements? Very often when you write code, you want to perform different actions for different decisions. You can use conditional statements in your code to do this. So in JavaScript we have 3 conditional statements. First one is if statement. So in JavaScript we have 3 conditional statements. First one is if statement, second one is if else statement, third one is switch statement. So generally in JavaScript we have 3 types of conditional statements. First one is called as if statement. It is also called as simple if statement. Second one is if else statement, third one is switch statement. So what is if statement? If statement means use this statement if you want to execute a set of code or statements when a condition is true. So if the given condition, first of all if the given condition is tested for if it is true or false. First of all, if the given condition or the given test case or the given test is tested for it is true or false. If it is true, then First of all, the given condition is tested whether if it is true or false. So if statement, what is the if statement? It is also called as simple if statement. So what is the if statement? If statement, first of all, it is so if statement is also called as a simple if statement. Use this statement if you want to execute a set of statements or a group of statements when a condition is true. Second one is if else statement. What is if else statement? Use this statement if you want to select one or more sets of code to execute. So if statement have only one test condition, whereas if else condition have two parts. The first part, if it is true, then execute some statements. In the second part, if it is false, so another set of statements are executed. Third one is called as switch statement. Third statement is called as switch statement. To test multiple if statements. To test multiple if statements, we may generally use switch statement. Use this statement if you want to select one of many sets of code to execute. So for example, this is the simple example for simple if statement. If my variable is equals to equals to 2, then some statements, else means do another statement. So this is the example for simple if statement. So this is another example for multiple if statements. This is another example for using multiple if statements or nested if statements. Switch statement. What is switch statement? If there exist multiple conditions. What is a switch statement? If there exists multiple conditions, the switch statement is recommended. This is because only one expression gets evaluated based on which control directly jumps to the respective case. So the syntax is, what is a switch statement? Switch statement is generally used to test multiple if statements. Switch statement is generally used to test multiple if statements. Multiple if based on some expression or based on given variable or based on some expression. The syntax is switch. Within brackets some variable, bracket open, case 1 colon some statements, case 2 some statements, case 3 some statements, default some statements. So this is the syntax of the switch statement. What is a switch statement? Switch statement is generally used to test multi-valued or multiple if statements. Loop statements. So what is a loop or looping statements? What are loops and looping statement? What is the definition of a loop? Loop is nothing but it is a set of statements or a group of statements which are executed. What is a loop? Loop is nothing but it is a set of statements or a group of statements which are executed repeatedly. Is called as a loop. Kucho first. So for loop, what is a for loop? For loop, so looping statements. Loops. What are loops and looping statements? So basically, loop or looping statement is a set of statements of a group of statements which are executed repeatedly. For a fixed number of times, or for the given condition. Is till the given condition becomes true or false. So there are three types of loops are there. first one is called as you know that in C and C++ languages, first one is called as for loop, second one is called as while loop, and third one is called as do while loop. So first one is called as for loop, second one is called as do while loop, and the third one is called as while loop. So a loop is a set of statement commands that executes repeatedly until a specified condition is met. JavaScript supports two loops. Loops are looping statements for and while. For and while. In addition, you can use the break and continue statements within loop statements. So another statement for in executes statements repeatedly but is used for object manipulation. So first one is for statement. So what is a for statement? For statement means a for statement or a for loop repeats until a specified condition evaluates to false. A for loop repeats until a specified condition evaluates to false. The JavaScript for JavaScript for loop is similar to the C and Java loops. A for loop looks like this. So for initialization within brackets initialization semicolon condition within brackets increment or decrement expression bracket open statements. So when a for loop executes, the following sequence of operations occur. When a for loop executes, the following sequence of operations occur. So the initializing expression, initiated expression. So first of all, the given initial expression. First of all, the given initial expression or the given expression is tested. First of all, the given is expression is tested whether if it is true or false. Initialization, first part is called as initialization. So basically a for loop contains three parts. First part is called as initialization, second part is called as condition or conditional part, third part is called as increment and decrement part. So there are three parts in for loops are used. First part is called as initialization or initialization part, second part is called as a conditional part, third part is called as a increment and decrement part. So for the first part, initialization part, in the initialization part, the variable is called as index variable. The variable is called as, generally it is called as an index variable. So the index variable or the looping variable. The index variable or the looping variable is initialized or assigned with some value. Second one is condition. Second part is called as a condition, the given condition. So in the second part, the given condition is the given test condition is tested. In the second part, the given condition is tested. The given condition is tested whether if it is true or false. If the given condition is true, then only it is tested. And in the third part, it is called as increment or decrement part, wherein the given variable, the index variable or the given variable is incremented or decremented with some value. So this is the syntax. This is the syntax of a for loop. Here three statements are used. Here three parts are used for statement. First part is called as initialization part, second part is called as conditional part, and the third part it is called as index increment or decrement part. First of all, the given condition is tested if it is true or false. First of all, the given condition is tested whether it is true or false. If it is true, then only the loop will be executed. And once the given condition becomes false, the loop will be terminated automatically, or the control will be exit from the loop immediately. The control will come exit, or control will come out of the loop immediately. So this is the working of a for loop. So we will continue in the next class.